Born into the royal family, in the United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth II has been a household name worldwide, even before becoming a queen.
She was born in Mayfair, London, as the first child of the Duke and Duchess of York, later King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. Her mother, Elizabeth, Duchess of York, later Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, was the youngest daughter of Scottish aristocrat Claude Bowes-Lyon, 14th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn, at whose London home, 17 Bruton Street, Mayfair, she was delivered by caesarean section. She was baptized by the Anglican Archbishop of York, Cosmo Gordon Lang, in the private chapel of Buckingham Palace on the 29th of May, and named Elizabeth after her mother Alexandra, after her paternal great-grandmother, who had died 6 months earlier, and Mary after her paternal grandmother, called Lilibet by her close family, based on what she called herself at first. She was cherished by her grandfather, George V, whom she affectionately called Grandpa England, and her regular visits during his serious illness in 1929 were credited in the popular press and by later biographers with raising his spirits and aiding his recovery. Elizabeth received private tuition in constitutional history from Henry Martin, Vice Provost of Eton College, and learned French from a succession of native-speaking governesses. A Girl Guides Company, the first Buckingham Palace company, was formed specifically so she could socialize with girls her own age. Later, she was enrolled as a Sea Ranger. When her grandfather died in 1936 and her uncle succeeded as Edward VIII, she became second in line to the throne, after her father. Later that year, Edward abdicated, after his proposed marriage to divorced socialite Wallis Simpson provoked a constitutional crisis. Consequently, Elizabeth's father became king, taking the regnal name George V. Since Elizabeth had no brothers, she became heir presumptive. If her parents had subsequently born a son, he would have been heir apparent and above her in the line of succession, which was determined by male preference primogeniture at the time. Early in 1947, Princess Elizabeth went with the King and Queen to South Africa. After her return, there was an announcement of her betrothal to her distant cousin Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten of the Royal Navy, formerly Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. The marriage took place in Westminster Abbey on November 20, 1947. On the eve of the wedding, her father, the King, conferred upon the bridegroom the titles of Duke of Edinburgh, Earl of Merioneth, and Baron Greenwich. They took residence at Clarence House in London. Their first child, Prince Charles Philip Arthur George, was born November 14, 1948, at Buckingham Palace. In the summer of 1951, the health of King George VI entered into a serious decline, and Princess Elizabeth represented him at the Trooping the Colour and on various other state occasions. On October 7, she and her husband set out on a highly successful tour of Canada and Washington, D.C. After Christmas in England, she and the Duke set out in January 1952 for a tour of Australia and New Zealand, but en route, at Sagana, Kenya, news reached them of the King's death on February 6, 1952. Elizabeth, now Queen, at once flew back to England. The first 3 months of her reign, the period of full mourning for her father, were passed in comparative seclusion. But in the summer, after she had moved from Clarence House to Buckingham Palace, she undertook the routine duties of the sovereign and carried out her first state opening of Parliament on November 4, 1952. Her coronation was held at Westminster Abbey on June 2, 1953. She was 25 years old when she became the new Queen of the United Kingdom. Her royal crown, the imperial state crown, is 31.5 centimeters tall and weighs 1.06 kilograms and has 4 fleur-de-lis and 4 crosses. Copyright supporting 2 arches topped by a mund and cross. Copyright Its purple velvet cap is trimmed with ermine. The frame is made of gold, silver and platinum, and decorated with 2,868 diamonds, 273 pearls, 17 sapphires, 11 emeralds, and 5 rubies, all estimated to worth between £3 and £5 billion. The crown is worn by the monarch on leaving Westminster Abbey at the end of his or her coronation. It is usually also worn at state openings of Parliament. She became an honorary colonel of the Grenadier Guards Regiment in 1942. In November 1953, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh made a 6-month round-the-world tour of the Commonwealth, which included the first visit to Australia and New Zealand by a reigning British monarch. In 1957, after state visits to various European nations, she and the Duke visited Canada and the United States. In 1961, she made the first Royal British tour of the Indian subcontinent in 50 years, and she was also the first reigning British monarch to visit South America, in 1968, and the Persian Gulf countries, in 1979. During her Silver Jubilee in 1977, she presided at a London banquet attended by the leaders of the 36 members of the Commonwealth, travelled all over Britain and Northern Ireland, and toured overseas in the South Pacific and Australia, in Canada, and in the Caribbean. In 2002, Elizabeth celebrated her 50th year on the throne. As part of her Golden Jubilee, events were held throughout the Commonwealth, including several in London. In June 2022, Britain celebrated Elizabeth's 70 years on the throne with the Platinum Jubilee, a 4-day national holiday that included the Trooping the Colour ceremony, a Thanksgiving service at St. Paul's Cathedral, a pop music concert at Buckingham Palace, and a pageant that employed street arts, theatre, music, circus, carnival, and costume to honor the Queen's reign. Privately, she became a keen horsewoman. She kept race horses, frequently attended races, and periodically visited the Kentucky stud farms in the United States. Her financial and property holdings made her one of the world's richest women. Elizabeth was known to favor simplicity in court life and was also known to take a serious and informed interest in government business, aside from the traditional and ceremonial duties. Queen Elizabeth II had 4 children: Charles, the next King of England, Anne, Andrew, and Edward. Until her death on September 8, 2022, she was the longest reigning monarch in British history. She died at age 96 at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, follow and subscribe to our channel for more.